السلامة. بنت العربان يا بوي العليب ونار يا بوي. This podcast episode was translated from Arabic to English and dubbed into English by the producers and dubbing artists.
مرحبا، انتوا عم تسمعونا مع حلقة عن الذكورية والذكورية.
Hello everyone. Today we will discuss masculinity and toxic masculinity in Eastern and Western societies. You are listening to an episode of Aswatona podcast. I am Linda, a Syrian Dutch living in France. Over the years, I have moved between my birthplace, Syria, and Europe. In both places, women did not get their full inherent human rights, at least that is what's been said. Feminist movements are mobilizing to advocate women's rights in the Arab world and Western societies. They are demanding equal pay for equal work and pushing for laws to end physical and sexual violence as well as harassment. However, even in countries that already passed such laws, these regulations are infrequently enforced and seldom put into practice. In our episode today, we endeavor to delve into the essence of masculinity and what it means to be a man, or a true man, as our fellow Egyptians say, راجل من ظهر راجل, which means a man from the back of a man. I, Linda, will take you on a short journey with our guest, Dr. Nadine, a French woman who has lived and worked in several Arab countries and has interacted with men and women. She is a researcher and historian at the French Institute of the Near East, and we will also talk to Jaber Bakr, a researcher and writer.
The term masculinity refers to the physical form and is associated with ideological and feminist glossaries, while manhood refers to the inherited social identity in a patriarchal society.
المجتمع الأبوي المعروف في الأنثروبولوجيا الكلاسيكية بمصطلح النظام الباترياركي.
In classical anthropology, a patriarchal society is defined as a system of families, social groups, and professional and political structures in which men assume positions of power. For feminist movements in Europe and North America, patriarchy refers to a social system of male domination over women. Anthropologist Suad Joseph defined patriarchy as favoring males and older people and exploiting kinship structures, ethics, and terminology to legitimize gender-based and age-based domination. Some activists refer to this system as Abawiyya, patriarchy in Arabic, which emphasizes the image of the Ab, the father, as the head man.
وفي بعض أوساط الناشطين للدلالة على صورة الأب بوصفه الزعيم.
اليوم الرجولة مش
I'm using the term manhood and not masculinity for a reason, is going through a crisis, not only in Europe but also worldwide. Nevertheless, we must mention the beginning and development of all forms of modernity from which individualism emerged. The 20th century marks the advent of individualism. People began to demand their rights to equal pay for equal work, with women playing a particularly significant role.
الذي دفع كل إنسان إلى طلب حقه في الوجود وفي المساواة. هنا النساء لعبوا دورا مهم.
لكن النسوية بالعالم العربي نشأت بين
In the Arab world, feminism originated between 1920 and 1960 in Egypt with the aim to liberate women. However, the movement faced significant pressure from the Egyptian government at the time. Now let's hear Jaber Bakr's interesting perspective on feminism in the Arab world.
لليوم نحن ما عم نقدر أو هاي وجهة نظري برجع أقول كمان إنه هي
I share my perspective and personal analysis. It is important to acknowledge the unique challenges we face in creating feminism tailored to our Levantine societies, which are deeply rooted in a culture, philosophy, and religion from that region. Unlike Europe, which has a strong historical influence of Christian theology, even in its secular forms, our societies have Islam as a prevalent and significant pillar. Now, the crucial question arises, how can we reconcile Islamic principles followed widely in the Arab world with feminist theories to foster women's activism for equality and justice?
طيب بس لأن نحن خلقانين بهذا الشرق عنا
Well, do we have to deal with masculinity just because we were born in the WANA region? Is this why men control women's lives? Is that why women face violence and marginalization? Is there masculinity in the West, and how does it manifest?
مع الوضع الموجود اليوم العقليات والعادات الراسخة منذ آلاف السنين.
The current situation can be traced back to mentalities and norms deeply rooted since the Bronze Age, making them challenging to overcome. This is evident in the rise of religious and political extremism, which serves as a defense of the old world. In Western Europe, masculinity is experiencing a crisis as women and sexual minorities have gained civil and equal rights. The focus now lies on redefining men's gender identity, where traditional, fixed references are challenged, allowing individuals to explore different gender expressions. However, in Arab societies, the stakes are even higher due to their unique complexities. It bears features of schizophrenia.
فسامي سكيزوفرينيك.
الفصام أو كما يعرف باللاتينية السكيزوفرينيا.
Schizophrenia is a Greek word that refers to a psychological disorder in which individuals fail to distinguish reality from fantasy. Common symptoms of schizophrenia include delusions and auditory and visual hallucinations. These experiences often lead people with schizophrenia to isolate themselves due to their impaired ability to engage socially and emotionally.
إذن في هذا المجال الفرق بين الشرق والغرب.
Hence, Eastern and Western societies are similar, and their differences lie in the characteristics and societal background as patriarchy has spread over the whole globe.
لأنه النظام الأبوي انتشر على الكرة الأرضية كلها.
إذا كان النظام الأبوي القديم ما زالت جذوره.
The old patriarchal system continues to be deeply entrenched in both Western and Arab societies. Despite societal development and changes in laws, various feminist movements have arisen to advocate for rights and equality. In this context, it is essential to explore the origin of the term toxic masculinity and understand the distinction between masculinity and toxic masculinity.
بالنسبة إلي وأنا
In my opinion, the term toxic masculinity is an ideological expression borrowed from the feminist movement in the United States.
تعبير إيديولوجي مستعار من الحركة النسوية في الولايات
I believe we should approach such terms cautiously when trying to understand the dynamics of a particular society. All women, including myself, have been subjected to forms of harassment and abuse in different areas of life. I do not believe that the workplace adequately protects women from patriarchal behaviors. Additionally, academia, which claims to be progressive, is in fact conservative, especially concerning women. Recent progress has been made in French state laws, which no longer allow academic men to treat women as they did in the past. For example, on a sexual level, we should question why women, in general, and feminism in particular, are often the subjects of criticism. The focus always seems to be on criticizing others rather than reconsidering the patterns of structural power that women themselves apply when they are in charge.
بقول إنه يجب علينا أن نسأل ليش النساء بشكل عام والحركة النسوية بالذات لما بيكونوا بموقع المسؤولية.
الحقيقة الذكورة بوجهة نظري الشخصية هي نتاج يمكن سلسلة أمراض اجتماعية.
In my view, masculinity is a byproduct of various social factors, and toxic masculinity emerges as a result of an oppressed society. In societies facing oppression, different levels of oppression and humiliation become ingrained in people's mindsets. To compensate for this, individuals, especially males, may emphasize the qualities associated with their gender identities, such as physical strength and muscularity. Traditionally, men were hunters and protectors of their families, leading to the idea of the male as a powerful monster who combats monsters. In Eastern societies where oppression and societal disease persists, masculinity can be particularly prevalent and harsh. Males who suffer from oppression may in turn oppress others. Even leaders and figures of authority often emphasize their sexual masculinity as seen in their military attire or appearance. This toxic masculinity is displayed over women, vulnerable groups, children, and homosexuals. However, what these males fail to realize is that they are victims of the very toxic masculinity they perpetuate. This toxic behavior stems from the repressive authority and societal circumstances they have experienced. Even some abused women paradoxically practice masculinity over others, preventing them from defending their rights. This paradox is especially pronounced in oppressed societies like those found in the Arab world. In contrast, Western societies have made significant strides in overcoming corporal punishment and oppression, thereby demonstrating less severe manifestations of toxic masculinity.
وهي المفارقة ما بتشوفها يعني بدرجات عالية إلا بمجتمعات مقهورة مثل المجتمعات العالم العربي عموما.
لازم منشان التحرر يصير يكون في
Liberation must reevaluate both femininity and masculinity as identities. The LGBTQ plus community has shown us that the spectrum between male and female, masculine and feminine, is diverse, and that all identities are legitimate.
كلهم شرعيين.
فينا نقول إنه المصطلحات والمفردات عموماً شهدت انزياح بالدلالة.
In conclusion, the connotations of terms and vocabulary have evolved over time. While the masculinity once conveyed courage and strength, it has now taken on negative connotations of ignorance and reactionary attitudes. The concept of masculinity has become ambiguous, exemplified by the term toxic masculinity. This term, which expresses attitudes and behaviors affecting both males and females, seems closer to a manifestation of mental illness rather than an ideological, political, or philosophical expression. It represents a wound suffered by members of society as a result of the prevailing and ruling system they inhabit. As we conclude this episode, I leave you with a question. What do you believe is the remedy for toxic masculinity in our societies? Thank you for listening. Take care. Salamat.